Since Lamar Jackson has taken over as the full-time starter for the Ravens, they've been 30-7 in the regular season, but unfortunately it has not resulted in much playoff success. Their first playoff game in 2019 was a loss to Tennessee after securing the bye, and then in 2020 they lost in the second round again, this time to the Buffalo Bills. Their offensive coordinator Greg Roman has been criticized by some people for the simplicity of his offense, and oftentimes in the playoffs, teams start to figure out what the Ravens offense is all about, and that's something that's probably going to have to change as the years go on. Defensively, Baltimore still looks great under Don Martindale, their defensive coordinator. They were second best in points per game allowed last season with 18.9, just trailing the Los Angeles Rams. So Baltimore seems very close. Hopefully, for the sake of Ravens fans out there, this is the year for you guys. I did pick the Ravens to win the Super Bowl last year, so I was pulling for you guys to make myself look good, but unfortunately that was not the case. So anyway, here are 3 things I expect from the Baltimore Ravens in 2021. Number 1, second-year running back J.K. Dobbins has over 1,200 rushing yards. So of course Dobbins was the second-round pick last year out of Ohio State. Had some good moments last year, but he did split a backfield with Gus Edwards and even Mark Ingram early on before he got faded out of the offense. But it took Dobbins until week 8 last year to see double-digit carries, meaning 10 plus of course, in a game. And as a comparison, I'd be surprised if that does not happen in week 1 this year. So if you get this guy more carries, I feel like he'll have a great season. He only saw 134 rushing attempts last year, but if you gave him that workhorse role of 220 to 250 carries, then I think he gets over 1,200 yards easily. And they made some offensive line upgrades. Kevin Zeitler at right guard, Ben Cleveland at left guard, a guy I liked. Alejandro Villanueva moves to right guard to fill in for Orlando Brown. So it's safe to say they got much better on the interior. Right tackle, questionable, we'll see about that, but their guards got a lot better, I will say that. I still think Gus Edwards has a role on this team, but I think if you give Dobbins like an 80-20 split or a 75-25 split, I love Dobbins' talent. He can break off big plays, and this is one of the, well, not one of the best rushing offensive football. So if you give the running back next to Lamar Jackson over 200 carries, the guy's probably going to have 1,200 plus yards rushing, in my opinion. For number 2, I try to stay positive with these, not to piss off any fan bases, but I had to say this one based on what I saw on the depth chart. I mean, I feel like their pass rush may take a step back, and I don't think it's going to be like the worst in the league, so don't hate me for that one. But over the offseason, they lost Matthew Judon to New England, and Judon's been the best pass rusher on the Baltimore Ravens the past 2 or 3 years, especially the last 2. And they lost Yannick Ngakoue, who they traded for last year. That was expected to happen, but Ngakoue has had a great track record of getting to the quarterback, getting sacks and strip sacks and forced fumbles, all those things. So you lose those 2 guys, and now you have Pernell McPhee, Calais Campbell. McPhee's like 32, 33. I think Campbell's 34. Those guys may drop off a bit. They're definitely getting up there in age, and you're asking guys like Tyus Bowser. Bowser's been a really good rotational guy over his career, but never like an alpha pass rusher on this team with Judon there. So you're asking him to be like the main guy now, and Jason Oweh coming out of Penn State is very raw in my opinion. I don't know if he's gonna hit the ground running, so that might take a little time for him to get acclimated and get used to the NFL playing style and everything like that. So I feel like this team may take a slight drop in sack production. So last year the Ravens had 39 sacks. That was 14th best in the NFL, and losing some of their most talented guys and some other guys like McPhee and Calais Campbell getting up there in age, I feel like they may finish outside the top 20. So I do feel, though, and I've said this before, I think having a good secondary is the most important part in today's NFL, with this being a very pass-heavy league. So the Ravens obviously have one of the best secondaries in football, so their defense is going to be fine. But in terms of getting to the quarterback, they may suffer in that department. It does not mean their defense will be bad, but I feel like the sack number may drop in 2021. And number 3, Lamar Jackson sets a career high in passing yards. So Lamar, during his MVP season in 2019, had 3,127 passing yards, which right now is a single season career high for him. So it helps now that there's 17 games. I do factor that into this prediction, but really, there are a couple other reasons. The offensive line, in my opinion, got much better on the interior. Once again, we'll find out about the right tackle spot, Villanueva versus Brown. Villanueva's always been pretty good in pass protection, not really the best run blocker, but he should be fine in pass protection. And of course, Ronnie Stanley at left tackle is one of the better left tackles in the league. Hopefully he comes back healthy. But you look at the receivers now. Mark Andrews, top 5 tight end in football, in my opinion. Marquise Brown can break off big plays for you. Sammy Watkins, when healthy, is, at worst a good possession receiver. He can still break off some big plays sometimes when he's out there. J.K. Dobbins is a pretty good receiver. He's shifty, can make guys miss, also break off big plays. They get Rashad Bateman in the first round out of Minnesota, a very good player. And maybe they trade for Julio Jones. Maybe. I'm not going to guarantee that, but there's a possibility they trade for him. Maybe they trade for some other established wide receiver. And really, if Lamar Jackson plays all 17 games, which he has not really had much of an injury history so far, which is good. If he plays all 17 games, all he needs to average is over 184 passing yards per game to make this happen. And 184 passing yards per game is not asking for a lot. And I know Lamar Jackson is by far the best running quarterback in football, but as Lamar Jackson gets older each year, I'm sure the less they want him running and putting his body on the line. There are quarterbacks with his playing style that break down when they're young sometimes. Look at Cam Newton, different body types, but still Cam Newton kind of had a similar put his body on the line type of play style. I think Lamar Jackson does a much better job of avoiding hits than Cam Newton did, but still, it's not good to take hits if you're a quarterback. So if Lamar Jackson has to focus more on being a pocket passer, that can only lead to more passing attempts, and he has better receivers now. I think his interior offensive line got much better. It all kind of is shaping up in a good way to give him the most passing yards in a season in his career. Once again, 184 yards per game. I'm not asking for too much. I think it's very possible, but we'll find out what happens. So that will do it. My 3 expectations for the Baltimore Ravens in 2021. Next video, we have the Carolina Panthers, I believe, which, they're a pretty interesting team, getting Sam Darnold, some young, exciting defenders on that defense, Jeremy Chin and Gross Matos, J.C. Horn, Brian Burns. So that should be a fun group, honestly. I'm excited to get into that one. Both of you guys tune in for that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you next time.